There is a special place in one's heart for their homeland. You will find that when it comes to people's opinions about countries, their home is often the one where they hold the most emotions for. Regardless of whether it's positive or negative, they often think about it. Even if they did not know or even remember it, it will often come into their mind, and they will wonder what it is like there currently. My homeland is that of the Skeld. I was born in its capital, also called Skeld, to a wealthy family. A very wealthy family. That is to say, I am of noble blood. I have been in the royal palace, attended many parties, spoken with the most powerful women in the world, including royalty. I have all the stories, I know all the secrets, and I'm willing to share some of the more interesting ones. I'll start with the regions. See, there are 4 that are the most important. These are the Northern, Western, Eastern, and Southern Vards. I'll start with the Western Vard, or the Heartlands as some know it, as that is where I am from. It is also the heart of the Empire, and where the capital lies. Stretching from the capital to the coast, it is home to a more, shall I say, upper-class society. The biggest problem you will face in your day-to-day life is what type of wine to have for your guests this evening. I'm exaggerating a little, of course, as sea monster attacks are a huge problem, and local law enforcement is always needed, and you should never scoff at a windguard, even when they are stationed here. And growing up there is a privilege I know all too deeply. When I was younger, my family took me to the local dragon jousts on a near-weekly basis. We would watch some of the most qualified windguards from the frontiers try to knock each other off of their dragons. I remember a moment when I was little older than 7, I asked my mother why we watched such things. She gave me a backhanded slap immediately, warning me to respect my culture. She never treated my sisters this way. Almost every noble family at least owns property in the Western Vard, as it's the who's who of the kingdom. When I was young, I was introduced to so many powerful figures. Windguard commanders, noble women with influences over entire cities, and even the royal family. I absolutely hated it back then, as I knew my mother just wanted to marry me off to one of their daughters as soon as she could. But I don't have to worry about that anymore, and you're here to learn about my homeland, not me. So I'll get to the other regions, shall I? The Eastern Vard is a bit more interesting, as it is known for 3 major things. Its farmland, or its industrial working middle-class heart, where you'll find that most people actually live and work, and its army, which is the largest, as its purpose is to serve as the invading and defending force when it comes to foreign wars and invasions, as it sits on the border of most of the kingdom's neighbours. It is also home to a faction of marauders, the ones in red armour, as a queen gave them a fortress within Humbata Lake as a reward for their services once, and they have used it as a retreat and recruiting ground ever since. If any marauder mercenaries were to fight alongside a region, they will most likely come from here, and it is the main reason you will find red marauders are sometimes within, shall I say, higher society. It is very rare that you will see windguards from this region travelling around, as they should always be ready should an invasion to happen, unlike the other 3 legions, who can be seen all around the kingdom for all sorts of reasons. Windguards only really leave this watch when they are being transferred to another region for one reason or another. Next, I shall talk about the Northern Vard, or the Desert regions, a region that is technically at war and has been for a while, but if you were to ask a Skeldian loyalist, it is little more than a small rebellion. I, on the other hand, know that it is much more than just a rebellion. There's not actually that much in the region, bar sand, ruins, and the occasional raiders. It's not the best region to be assigned to, but it's far from the worst. Protecting caravans in the scorching heat will be your main priority there, as it is a trading region for the most part, as well as filled with natural resources, making it a sort of money pot for the kingdom. And there is that conflict I hinted at, the one with the Olguni, the free city and region of Olgun. If you were to ask me, they are truly an independent nation and peoples. But the Skeld don't see it that way, as they did split off from them a long time ago. But that's a story for a different day. Back to the Skeld for now, and of course the final region. The Sovereign Vard is the wildest and most untamed of them all. This is where the most conflicts happen, and where rebellions happen on such a common basis that it is nearly part of their culture. This is considered tribal lands, and most that live here at least resent their current overlords. And those are the nice ones. The snowy mountains to the south are famed for being the most inhospitable parts of the kingdom for many reasons. The windguard of these parts have a reputation for being the best of the realm. They are famed and feared as the strongest of the land. And most of it is true, as it is a very harsh place to be posted. So you would expect the sentence to be brought here would be hated. But that is not actually the case. You see, when a windguard is assigned to this region, they usually respond with pride and are honoured, as only the most skilled legionnaires are assigned here. Due to its harsh nature, it has become a strong meritocracy, so it can be a jumping-off point for those of, shall I say, a more unfortunate upbringing. It results in some very strange scenarios of legionnaires being proud to be assigned to suppress their own homelands, resulting in giving them a jumping-off point into the ranks and getting to retire in the more cozy Western Vard. I've been to every region, of course, and have stories about all of them. The Eastern Vard is where I got into the most trouble, as I upset a whole legion there, and was... hunted's a strong word, but were it not for the marauders, I would probably be in jail right now. To put that quickly into perspective for you, a unit of windguard is comprised of 10 green cape legionnaires and 1 captain to be identified via the red cape. The commander, who is known as the hero, has a blue cape, and often commands around 25 captains, comprising the legion as a whole, although I should mention most legions do tend to hire a band of marauders and or phantoms to aid them. But that's just most regions. See, the Eastern Vard, being the main army, usually has about 50 legionnaires per captain, and more captains. All of them were hunting me at the time. I'm not going to talk about how I got in or out of that fiasco, as it's a whole story in and of itself. I have not had enough drinks to relive that rather cringeworthy memories, to be brutally honest with you. Suffice to say, the issue has been resolved, and I can show my face again in the Eastern Vard. Well, most of it. It's remarkable how fast the Skeld have become the strongest force on the continent, as it's probably the youngest nation history-wise. Hell, we know its origin in every way, and it's all mostly due to one remarkable woman. The first queen who unified the land in the Unification Wars was the famous Sturgita. I still have some Skeldian pride over her accomplishments, to be brutally honest with you. Of course, I'd be a bad storyteller of this land if I didn't mention what this continent is famed for. The dragons of the land. And the Skeld is famous for having a whole species that live primarily in their lands. I speak of the famous Ironwings, who dominate the eastern and western Vards, the only real exception being a few night snaggers that live underground and a lot of blood chasers on the coast. But the Ironwings are all you will see on a day-to-day basis. In fact, almost half of all Ironwing clades live directly within these regions, and almost all the ones that don't were moved by the Skeld, or the Skeld moved to them, making them the symbol of the kingdom. It is a wonderful connection between a kingdom and its dragons, one in which most other kingdoms are envious of, as it's really hard to top an Ironwing. The Sovereign Vard is the one I dreaded going to, and I only did so because I was summoned by another adventurer to aid them in their hour of need. I hesitated, knowing the stories of that land, but I am a man of my word, and aided them when they called for it. I got into a lot of fights, and truth be told, I'm only a somewhat decent fighter now because I had been there. I've always been more of a wordsmith, and in truth my words did help me while I was there, as I calmed a few tribal people down, but the sword is still a nice backup. And I think that oh, is that the time already? Oh, I think I best be off. More tales another time, of course. I'll catch you around. Thank you for listening to my tales. I am the Ashspawn. Feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me. But till next we meet, fellow traveler, have a good day.